Chapter 17, Accessories. Disclaimer: the following chapter depicts Nightmare and members of his game forming a genocidal ideology. As the story is from Nightmare's POV, he will make this line of logic sound palatable to him. I, as the writer, do not condone genocide, or any ideology that would make it favorable in any circumstance. Even though Nightmare is the protagonist, he is also the villain of this story. Please keep that in mind while reading this chapter. Thank you. Night had fallen. All customers had long left the large department store along with the employees several hours prior. Overhead, a field of fluorescent lights hung above the open air, giving off a slight buzzing sound. The noise was accompanied by melodious tunes of indistinct jazz. One of the illuminated advertisements over the makeup counter flickered. Bit-tuned theme songs played softly from the game consoles and electronics. There was the sound of bumping in the office. Muffled voices questioned where they were. A few seconds more, the door unlocked, allowing Nightmare to step out of the darkness. Behind him came Cross, Killer, and Horror, pausing to look around the vast empty space, blocked only by the registers. "Holy shit! It's a Kmart! I've only ever seen these on ads on TV!" said Killer. "A what?" Cross tilted his brow. "It's a supermarket, or a department store," Nightmare tried to explain. "It's supposed to be where you can buy most things anyone would need. And right now we need new clothes. Everyone into the clothes department. After that, we can do whatever we please." "Oh, hell yeah! New threads! Here I come!" Killer ran, hopping over the rope boundary, closing off the registers. In seconds, he disappeared into the middle of the store. "I'm guessing we won't actually be buying anything, huh?" said Cross as Nightmare unlatched one of the ropes to let them in. "Of course not. The multiverse is my oyster. I can take whatever I please," Nightmare shrugged. Strolling into the men's clothing department, Horror spotted a rack of head beanies. Reaching for an orange one, he felt it in his fingers before fitting it over his cracked skull. He glanced at Nightmare for approval. The dark skeleton gave a thumbs up. "Looks good." Horror grinned. His attention was drawn in the direction of the men's workwear, looking for pieces in his size. "Should we be wearing anything in particular?" Cross asked. "Nah, just whatever makes you feel comfortable," Nightmare said, continuing to browse. "I don't have a clue what the fashion of this world is." Cross anxiously rubbed the back of his skull. "I think you should look cool." A rack of sunglasses nearby, holding many different styles of eyewear, Nightmare grabbed a pair that was black rimmed but had an iridescent reflection on them. "Here, try these on. They'll go over your eyes." Cross blinked but did so. Everything's darker." "Yeah, but now you look like a movie star. You just need a leather jacket to match," Nightmare chuckled. "What's a movie?" Right. We need to get you caught up on that." Nightmare would search and find the right style of leather jacket he'd been thinking of before helping Cross to find some blue jeans and shoes to match. "Right, so let's get you to the fitting room then." Just as they got to the small enclosure of private rooms, one of the doors bursted open. "Hey boss, how do I look?" said Killer, leaning against the door. The skeleton adored a revealing red cocktail dress with a slit up the side, a pair of knee-high black stilettos he showed off by kicking a leg into the air. Cross and Nightmare were both blushing. Killer!" Nightmare huffed a little, unsure to be mad or to laugh. "Ah, come on, boss. There's so much you can find if you're not just shopping in the men's department," said Killer, rotating his shoulders as he attempted another scandalous pose. Shaking his head, Nightmare handed the clothes off to Cross before shoving him into one of the stalls. "Killer, you can't fight in a dress like that." "No, but I could seduce the enemy." "Please just put on some pants." Nightmare huffed again, this time more flustered as he thought Killer didn't look too bad in that dress. All right, Killer shrugged, returning to his stall. "Oh wait, I saw something I thought you'd like," he said, before tossing Nightmare a black and white striped crop top. Why do you think I'd like this?" His violet blush grew brighter. "Please, for me, let me see you in it. If you don't like it, you can wear something else," Killer begged. Okay, fine." Before taking a stall, Nightmare would grab himself some jeans, a hoodie, and new shoes as well. How he was letting Killer convince him to wear something so revealing, he didn't know. Maybe it was the kinship he felt towards his first friend aside from the librarian. Just because Killer wanted it, he wanted to give it to him. No, that... Nightmare tried to shake the thought from his head. As he changed into the clothes, he could hear Cross step out of his stall. How does it look? Oh, very stylish, Crossy, said Killer. But I think you need a few accessories, some belts, a couple gold chains, and you'd look dazzling. Nightmare didn't expect Killer to be so into fashion. As he slipped on the crop top, within seconds it took on the color of the blight. However, Nightmare found himself staring into the mirror. He felt exposed, vulnerable, with his ribs showing, his spine and hips. But there was something else to it. It felt sort of freeing, like he could care less what others might think of him. At least, that's how he should feel wearing something like this. Automatically, he folded his arms as if trying to guard himself, but it didn't do much for how exposed he felt. Consciously, he had to force his arms down and sit with the reality of his body, his corrupted, twisted body. Well, boss, what do you think? Killer called to him. It's fine. It would look better on someone else. Don't put yourself down like that. Let me see it. Part of him didn't want to be seen this way, but maybe if he let Killer have his fun, he could get this over with quickly. Opening the stall door, he didn't step out, but let Killer look inside. Hey, looks great. Just like I thought it would. The skeleton grinned. He switched out the dress for something like a red swimsuit with white sweatpants. Nightmare hung his head, gripping his arms behind his back where his roots twitched anxiously. Do I? Or do I just look good to you? Well, luckily there's someone here for a second opinion. Killer grabbed the collar of Cross's jacket, pulling him in to look at Nightmare. The knight had a violet blush on his face. Yeah, you look great. Taking a deep breath, Nightmare closed his eyes and lifted the hoodie over his shoulders, hoping he could push down whatever embarrassment he was feeling. If they both said he looked good, he must have. He just wasn't able to see it. Okay, so now we have our clothes. What do you want to do now? We should grab some snacks and have a party. Grab some movies, music, and video games, said Killer. Any chance you could send stuff back to my place through your shadows? Your place? Oh, right, your house in Snowden. Nightmare nodded and smiled. Yeah, I could do that. Awesome! Hey, big guy! Nice look, like a lumberjack! Killer said to Horror, standing outside the dressing room. Horror chuckled a little, a new axe swinging over his shoulder and wearing brown overalls and a khaki jacket. Upon seeing Nightmare wearing the crop top, he too seemed to be taken aback until Killer grabbed his arm. Let's grab some carts and pile them full of food! Don't grab too much. I don't want to deal with spoiled food, said Nightmare as they rushed back to the front. So, what is a movie? Said Cross, scratching his cheek. Huh? Oh, right. Follow me, I'll show you, said Nightmare, heading towards the back of the store and towards the electronics department. It's sort of like a story, but with moving pictures and sound. Moving pictures? What kind of magic is that? It's more just a trick with a light box called television, said Nightmare, barely able to explain it himself. In moments, the both of them stood in front of a wall of TVs of various sizes, all playing the same action movie with humans racing cars down a highway and firing guns at each other. Nightmare wasn't familiar with this one, but his attention was on Cross's reaction. Jaw dropped, the knight was transfixed by the flashing images. Reaching out, he touched the bowed glass of the closest box, rubbing his fingers after feeling the static. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Huh, pretty cool, Cross grinned. Looking over his shoulder, Nightmare spotted an aisle of headphones that played sample records. Hey, come check this out. He patted across his arm. A chart of buttons next to the headphones displayed various artists and sample songs. Pressing one, a guy with long hair and sunglasses, he took the headphones and placed them on Cross's head. Gripping the cups over his ears, Cross listened and grinned. It's music! But, wow, this is a good beat! Yeah! Nightmare chuckled, grabbing some headphones too. For himself, he pressed a button of a girl with bountiful curly hair. In seconds, the uplifting beats filled his skull. The songstress sang of dancing and searching for the perfect partner to fall in love with. Cross did close his eyes, tapping his foot before swinging his hips to the music. The smaller dark skeleton found he was doing the same, his roots swaying behind him in the opposite direction. When Cross opened his eyes, he held his hands out to Nightmare as if asking for a dance. Blushing, but unable to resist, he let the knight take his hands, dancing together to their own beats. They couldn't do much with the headphones corded to the display, but it was just enough to make Nightmare feel he was having a guilty amount of fun. Though he laughed, he couldn't hear it over the heavy earmuffs. Cross chuckled too. Nightmare only able to tell by the motions of his mouth and the feeling of joy in his soul. All of a sudden, Cross looks past him and threw an arm around Nightmare, pulling him towards the CD case. Killer came barreling past as a cart full of snacks almost hit both of them, crashing into the TV display. The skeleton fell on his ass, barely rolling away as a TV smashed on the ground next to him. My bad. Killer, what the... said Nightmare after taking off the headphones. We got food, said Horror with another cart full behind him. However, the big skeleton was distracted by eating shredded cheese from a bag to be as reckless as Killer. Getting up, Killer rolled his cart back to Nightmare. Hey boss, mind entering our carts into the shadows? How did you grab so much this fast? Yeah, sure. It appeared Killer's cart was mainly full of prepackaged snacks and junk food, while Horror's was full of actual food stuff for preparing meals. Just taking a quick glance over both carts, Nightmare pushed aside some seasoning packets to reveal a large hunk of shrunk-wrapped meat. Horror, is that a whole-ass ham? Horror shrugged. Don't like ham? How are we going to cook something like that before it goes bad? I can cook it, Horror grinned confidently. Nightmare sighed. Alright, fine, he said, starting to drop food into his shadow. Hey, they have PlayStation and Nintendo! Come on, Horror, let's grab some games! Said Killer, abandoning the cart to grab the giant's arm. Huh? Oh, yeah, sure. The two of them headed a couple of aisles down to the large glass displays, screens overhead displaying the intro sequences of several games. As Killer went to open the door, it was locked and he struggled with it for a moment. Horror, however, smashed his axe through the glass before ripping the doors off the frame, letting them smash onto the ground. Those two are getting along, said Cross, flinching from the sound. Anyway, can I help with that? Sure. Just start dropping stuff into your shadow. Just not anything that's cold. I'm dropping that in the snow outside Killer's house. Wait, my shadow? He said, grabbing a bag of chips. I can control most all shadows. The more LV I gain, the more my control expands. Giving a shrug, Cross dropped the bag under him. Sure enough, it seemed to slip right past the floor into his shadow. Huh, neat. That's such an awesome power. You think so? Nightmare looked away shyly. Yeah, I've never seen anyone can do that. Are you sure you're not more than just a monster? I'm not a normal monster, that I know, but I don't want to talk about it. Oh, sorry, it's sensitive, isn't it? Yeah, little. Here, send these to my house too, said Killer as both he and Horror carried a stack full of games along with their accompanying consoles. Nightmare blinked and motioned at his shadow, allowing both of them to drop the stacks of games through the floor. Hey, Horror, come with me! I want to see how far you could throw me, said Killer. Throw you? Won't you get hurt? Horror asked. Nah, I saw some beds on display. You can aim for those. I'll have a soft landing. I don't know about... But Killer grabbed the big man's arm, dragging him away. Once the carts were cleared, Cross and Nightmare pushed them out into the main aisle. It was then the Nightmare felt a spell he'd cast triggered. A summoning from Dusttale. Oh, Cross, I gotta do something. Could you... Killer's delighted scream echoed across the store as they both caught the slightest glimpse of him over the aisles. Make sure they don't do anything dumb, Nightmare said. Got it, boss. Cross grinned and saluted him. It made Nightmare smile before he sank into his shadow. On the other side, he emerged back in Grilby's. The familiar smell of cigarettes and booze filled his next breath. The Sands of Dusttale sat at the bar, laying over it with a bottle of whiskey in his hand. You called? Nightmare said smugly, hands in the air. Sands grumbled under his breath. Didn't mean it. Oh, you didn't? Oh, my mistake. I guess I'll just leave you here. No, wait, said Sands, stumbling off the stool, nearly collapsing. Nightmare put his hands on his hips. You're drunk. I'm fine. I just slipped. Now just get me the hell out of here, Sands hissed. All right, don't be so pushy about it. Hold still, said the dark skeleton, coming to wrap an arm around Sands, if only to keep him from falling on his face. In a second, both were back in the department store, rising from under a rack of shirts close to the home goods. In the distance, Nightmare heard Killer squealing again before an awful loud snap, followed by many laughs. Well, sounds like fun. Sands? On the ground, Sands laid face down, grumbling, rolling his eyes. Nightmare gently kicked the man over. The skeleton's eyes squinted as he looked in the view around him. Kmart? Really? Hey, we needed to get some things. Nightmare put a fist on his hips. Some things? Like the new view into your ribcage? Sans smirked. Realizing Sans' position gave him a stark look into Nightmare's ribs, he blushed, covering them with his arms. Hey, don't look up! Ugh, gods, never mind, get up! Helping him to his feet, Nightmare swung Sans' arm over his shoulder and guided him to the others. Smooth jazz continued to play over the speakers. They'd find the others, with Killer sitting on Horror's shoulders. Come on, throw me up there! I bet I could catch the rafters! Okay, I'm sure I would hurt you if I tried that, said Horror. Yeah, why do you want to do that anyway? Can't you just shortcut up there? Said Cross. Yeah, but that takes all the fun out of it! I want to fly! Hey, the last guy is here! Sans, this is Cross, Horror, and Killer, said Nightmare, shoving the skeleton up straight. Yo, Horror gave a simple wave. Is he okay? Cross tilted his brow. Tell me this is the last Sans, boss. I'm starting to think you're obsessed with us, said Killer. Last one, promise. Also, he needs a new name, said Nightmare, letting the skeleton stand on his own. He's dressed like a soldier, said Killer, hopping down, coming closer to take a look at the hooded man. Horror gave a small huff at the air. Covered in dust, too. Dust? As in monster dust? Said Cross. Who of us wasn't found covered in dust? Killer shrugged. I wasn't, Cross mumbled, a slight unease in his voice. Well, guess we'll call him Dust, Horror shrugged. I'm not going by Dust, Sans grumbled. Alright then, what should we call you, scary man? Killer grinned as he leaned closer, his face nearly under Sans' cap. Killer, don't antagonize him, Nightmare sighed. And we do need to call you by something other than Sans. If I'm trying to talk to you, everyone else is going to turn heads. Killer leaned away, fanning the air from his face. Damn, he smells like a liquor bottle. I'm guessing you're all here to steal shit, right? The skeleton asked, looking at Nightmare. Yeah, pretty much. Cool, I'm gonna get some cigarettes, he said, turning away towards the front. Hey, we still don't know what to call you, Killer called after him. Whatever, Dust is fine, the hooded skeleton mumbled. Man, where'd you track this one from? Killer asked Nightmare. Just give him a chance, said Nightmare, following after Dust. Truth was, he found it uncanny how quickly the others had settled on that name. It was also the name of his beloved librarian, the one who taught him about the multiverse, and also the one who most resembled him. Perhaps there was some divine order to everything, determining which traits would surface over others in different AUs. Dust hopped over the register containing the cigarette case before smashing the lock with a summoned bone. He started stuffing the various pockets of his pants and jacket with individual packs. We're going to Killer's house after this, so if there's anything you need, I can send it there, Nightmare said to him, but Dust didn't answer. His roots sensed animosity from Dust. What about? He wasn't sure. If he didn't want to be here, he wouldn't have begged to come, would he? Still, something about his off-putting behavior seemed similar to the librarian's. Dust didn't feel the need to be pleasant towards any of them, which may have falsely been read by Nightmare's self-assuredness. Why are you staring at me? Said Dust, turning to Nightmare. Oh, sorry, I just got lost in thought. After he'd spoken, Nightmare's eyes dodged to the entrance, where red and blue lights were flashing through the glass. Ah, shit, the cops are here. Come on, let's grab the others and get out of here, said Nightmare, rushing back to the home goods. He came back as Horror knocked Cross on his ass with a giant pillow. Guys, we gotta go. The police already caught on. Wait, we're gonna run? Killer tilted his brow. Why don't we just fight him? Do you want to? Said Nightmare as Dust caught up. Hell yeah, let's show them what we're made of, said Killer, holding up his hand. All of a sudden, something akin to a dragon skull materialized next to Killer. Nightmare had seen something like it once before, summoned by Dust to attack him days prior. What is that? Nightmare finally questioned. What's what? Said Killer, hopping onto the brow of the dragon's face. Horror and Cross made the same motion, also summoning dragon skulls. Dust gave a shrug before summoning his as well. I mean, what are those? The dragon skulls! Nightmare swung his arms out, suddenly feeling excluded from his own gang. You mean the Gaster Blasters? Said Horror after he and Cross also mounted their dragons. Yeah, it's a Gaster Blaster. Don't you have them? Killer shrugged. No? Nightmare huffed. Oh, well, sucks to suck! said Killer as the blaster flew over the aisles to the front, Dust and Horror following behind him. Hey, you can ride on mine if you want, said Cross, floating to him and offering his hand. Nightmare sighed, grumbling under his breath. He'd really like to just have one of his own, but maybe it wasn't something simple to learn. Still, why did all the Sanses have them, but not him? Pulled on top of the blaster, Nightmare stood beside Cross and wrapped his arms around his waist. Legs shaking, he'd never been atop something that floated like this before. Hold on tight, said Cross. Before they reached the front, loud blasts roared out from the mouths of the three other blasters. Glass exploded, drywall cracked into massive chunks, dust and debris rose up where the entrance was. Killer, Horror, and Dust all flew into the cloud and presumably out the other side. Cross and Nightmare ducked their heads. They too would pass through the cloud out into the night sky. A few more blasts were unleashed on the remaining pair of police cars, screams of the officers quickly silenced as they were atomized by the magical beam. The vehicles made loud crunching sounds, rolling across the pavement before skidding to a stop several yards away. Rather anticlimactic, Dust groaned. Yeah, this is why I don't use blasters very often. They're no fun, Killer shrugged. Think there'll be more? Horror inquired. Oh, you think we can get the military to show up? Killer gave a gleeful grin. Cross was more reserved on adding anything to their conversation. He was distracted by the modern landscape around them, illuminated by the moon and streetlights, as well as guarding Nightmare. So where exactly did you bring us, other than Kmart? Killer asked, floating up beside Cross and Nightmare, with expert balance atop his blaster. Huh? Oh, the AU is just called Undertale, which is strange considering it has the suffix and prefix I normally see on other AUs, the dark skeleton began to recall. It's right at the center of the positive and negative energy fields. Monsters are still sealed underground and only humans are on the surface. Okay, but where on the surface are we? Killer asked. New Jersey. Jersey? Shit, man, could you have taken us to a worse place? Detroit? Nightmare shrugged. Okay, damn, man, you got a point. They could hear more sirens coming as the red and blue lights flashed down the street. We got fresh playmates coming, Horror grinned. I preferred it when it was quiet, mumbled Dust before both of them flew off towards the incoming police. Cross and Nightmare would hang back as the other three went on a rampage through the city, terrorizing both police and locals. For the other two, however, Cross's blaster would bring them up high in the air. The knight had many questions about what he was seeing and things about modern life. Nightmare and Cross would sit together on the dragon skulls the dark skeleton explained the best he could. It's all right. It took me a long time to learn all this too, said Nightmare, leaning back, using his arms to prop him up. I suspect my homeworld is a lot like yours. That's so. What made you want to come to Worlds in the future then? Said Cross, resting his arms on his knees. It was the librarian who saved me. He was from a modern world, so he taught me about it. I just want to learn more about how he sees things, you know? The librarian. You've mentioned him a few times. Will we ever get to meet him? Nightmare shrugged. Maybe. I don't want to bother him, though. I think Killer and the others might be too overwhelming. He's very much the hermit type. Yeah, they're awfully enthusiastic, said Cross, as Nightmare swore he could hear Killer's laughter in the distance. What's that buzzing sound? As they were both distracted, a helicopter rose up from behind the blaster, firing a barrage of bullets at them. The sudden attack caused the blaster to dispel, throwing Nightmare and Cross through the air. Letting out a scream, Nightmare felt his body spinning, his roots reaching out in all directions to try to find balance. It took him a moment, but he was able to move into the shadows of his roots and disappear. He re-emerged on the street, grabbing a light pole to try not to throw up. Cross! He turned his gaze to the sky. He spotted the knight, still falling and spinning in the air. Through the shadows, Nightmare moved swiftly. He'd rise atop a building where Cross would likely make a fatal landing. Branching at his roots, Nightmare created a soft basket under him, catching Cross before bouncing in and out of his own shadow, stopping Cross's velocity. Oh my gods! Cross gasped as Nightmare let him down gently. Are you okay? The smaller skeleton kneeled beside him. Cross nodded, taking a gasp of breath. I think so. Nightmare grinned. Good. Make yourself comfortable. I'm going to go grab the others. Dropping Cross into his shadow, the knight yelped as he disappeared. Overhead, several helicopters had taken to the sky, each making aim towards the gaster blasters. Swiftly, Nightmare moved through the shadows again, off to grab the rest of his crew. Killer had hopped off to make fun with his knife, along with Horror with his axe. The dark skeleton grabbed both of them through their shadows. For Dust, who was still flying through the air, he had to sprout the roots out of the Gastroblaster's shadow, swallowing it and Dust together into it. Finally, Nightmare himself would rise out of the darkness of Killer's kitchen, back in his home AU. "Hey, get off us! Ah!" complained Killer, as Dust's blaster had landed on him and Horror in the living room. Dust still clung onto one of the horns, dropping to the ground as the blaster disappeared. Cross was sitting on the couch and gave a shy wave. "Hey guys!" "Alright, games are next to the TV, snacks are in the kitchen, and all the cold food is outside in the snow," said Nightmare, heading to open the door. "Horror, I'll help you get the food into the fridge." "This is..." he heard Dust start to say as Nightmare stepped outside. "My house, so don't go into my room, alright?" said Killer. "Killer, you're dripping blood everywhere," said Cross. Outside was just as cold and dark as it had been in Horror Tales Snowden. However, just as Killer had said before, the town looked much nicer, not run down, despite the fact that there was no one around anymore. Nightmare stepped through the snow to find the food pile, rolling out the large ham. "Hey, Horror, you said you wanted to cook this?" Horror?" Horror stood still, staring down at Grillby's and the other buildings in the town. Right, he must not have expected to see this place. Finally, he turned his head, acknowledging Nightmare. "Huh?" Trying to lift the ham, Nightmare stumbled a little. Horror came to grab it from him and hold him up straight. Thanks." "Is this really Snowden?" said Horror, looking at the ham before backing down at Grillby's. "Yeah, it's Killer Snowden. Why?" Where is everyone?" "Gone, just like your Snowden." "Oh." Nightmare smiled and patted his arm. "Hey, don't worry about that right now. Let's just keep having fun, right? We got all this food and some video games. The sad stuff can come later." Right." Turning around, Nightmare picked up more food with his roots before following Horror inside. Cross was trying to clean up the blood with some paper towels, which frustratingly was only causing the blood to smear into the carpet. Dust had ripped open the packaging of the PlayStation and was trying to figure out how to put it together. Upstairs, Nightmare could hear the shower start to run as Killer had gone to clean himself. As Horror turned on the light to the kitchen and began searching for tools to prepare the ham, Nightmare helped bring in the rest of the food, putting it inside the empty fridge. The only thing in there before Nightmare got to it was a bowl of spaghetti. Recognizing the sign of the papyrus that once lived here, he swiftly grabbed the plate to throw it away before any of the Sanses noticed. Finally, Nightmare would crash on the couch, not realizing how much his bones and roots ached from all the activity he had that day. Only about 24 hours before had he met Killer. Now he had a full gaggle of friends. A small smile came to his face as his back relaxed into the weathered couch. He had friends again. He wasn't going to be alone. After everything that had happened 2 years ago, after losing Dream, he was afraid he'd end up alone for the next 500 years. It gave him a level of assurance that helped him relax. It wasn't the time yet, but later he intended to share his suffering with them and learn of their own. "I can't get it out of the carpet," said Cross, his voice shaking in defeat. "Don't even worry about it. I don't think Killer's going to care," said Nightmare, "just so long as it's dry." The sound of the piano logo chime played over the TV as Dust finished hooking it up. He began sorting the pile of games they had grabbed to figure out what he wanted to boot up. The sound of sizzling in the kitchen was followed by the smell of oil and potatoes. "Finally some real fucking food," Horror mumbled. The shower upstairs stopped just before the door to the bathroom opened. Killer strolled out. "All clean!" Did you even take off your clothes?" said Cross as a steam rose off Killer's bones. "I took off my sweatpants, but this is just spandex," said Killer, pulling at the red fabric around his chest. "It's a swimsuit. It'll dry," he said, coming down the stairs. He gasped upon seeing Dust had the PlayStation going. "Oh, sweet! Let's play Twisted Metal!" "Huh? No, I put it together. I get the first pick," said Dust. "I'm playing Resident Evil." "But that's a one-player game! At least pick a two-player game!" said Killer, his voice in a growl. His soul was still in a target shape after Nightmare grabbed him away from his fun on the streets. "No," said Dust, kneeling down to put the disc into the console. "Hey, buddy, this is my house," said Killer, pulling his knife to Dust's throat. "I get to say what happens." "Whoa, whoa! said Nightmare, sitting up quickly as one of the roots grabbed the armed wrist, pulling it away. Killer, that's way overboard. Ah, ugh. As if not realizing it himself, Killer looked surprised and dropped the knife. Dust was sitting still, staring up at him with glowing red eyes. Killer's soul shifted back into a heart shape. Sorry, Dust. I didn't mean it. Dust set up the console, let him play for an hour, and then you can play whatever you want, said Nightmare, letting go of Killer's wrist. With a sigh, Killer picked up the knife to hide it back in his pants. Yeah, that's fine, the skeleton grumbled. Walking around Dust, Killer headed into the kitchen. Nightmare sensed a grudge radiating from Killer, but the feeling was directed inward with shame. That was kind of crazy, mumbled Cross with a crooked smile as he sat beside Nightmare. Probably best not to say anything like that too loud around us, Nightmare whispered. As the intro to the game played, Dust glanced back at them. His look said not only that he heard them, but also hoped that they'd be quiet as he played. His fear would be quelled as Cross went silent, staring at the screen in fascination. Can I help out? Said Killer in the kitchen. You could pick up your snacks, said Horror. Oh, right. Yeah, I could do that. Nightmare could see Killer sorting the pile of snacks into the cabinets before grabbing a bag of barbecue chips. He'd sit on Nightmare's other side before popping open the bag, crunching a handful of chips into his mouth. Dust would glance over his shoulder again, this time at Killer. Oh, come on, I can't make eating chips any more quiet. Just turn up the TV. With the suggestion, Dust did so before rushing back to his controller as the first zombie in game came to life. The artificial gun sound popped several times as Dust's character shot the zombie. Killer sighed and handed the bag of chips to Nightmare, who gladly partook of them before handing them to Cross. The knight would take the chips, not sure what they were, but gladly ate some, then proceeded to eat the whole bag on his own. Not only did the salty snack taste good, but he continued to be transfixed by the game, losing track of how much he'd eaten. Killer nor Nightmare cared too much to stop him, though. Anyone want potato skins? Said Horror, holding a small stack of plates and a tray of golden brown potatoes. They were all smothered in melted cheddar cheese, sour cream, and sprinkled with fresh green onions. The smell of them was simply divine, filling up the room. Even Dust paused. Careful, they're hot, he said, holding the plates out to Killer. I'll just have one, thanks, he said, taking a plate and carefully maneuvering a potato onto his plate. Dust and Nightmare would have 3 each, but Cross refused, having accidentally filled himself up on potato chips. Once Dust's hour of play was up, he'd step outside to take a smoke. Killer would hook up 3 more controllers to the PlayStation before putting his little chaotic racing game on for the rest of them. Nightmare had some experience playing video games with a librarian, but he wasn't too interested in them to get better at it. Horror and Killer spent most of their time chasing each other, mainly leaving Cross alone as he kept getting stuck on walls. A buzzer in the kitchen let Horror know that the ham in the oven was finished. I don't think I can eat anymore, Nightmare chuckled. I can. Horror gave a devious grin before going to retrieve it. Killer yawned and stretched. I could use a break, or a nap, or sleep. Where are we supposed to sleep anyway? Said Cross. Oh, right, we should have grabbed some pillows and blankets, said Nightmare. I have a bit of magic left in me tonight, I can grab some. Shifting into the shadows, Nightmare moved into the inn in town. He grabbed the pillows and blankets from each of the rooms, taking extra just to be sure they'd have enough, and dropping them into his shadow. When he'd returned to Killer's house, he rose up from under one of the blankets as the others were making sense of how they were going to sleep. Horror was a bit occupied eating his ham at the table, while Dust remained standoffish in the corner. Nightmare and I are the smallest, plus it's my house, so I say we get the couch, said Killer. Luckily, there wasn't any argument with that arrangement. Cross yawned as well, getting his coat off and fixing a spot next to the couch. So where will we be going tomorrow, then? I'm not sure, said Nightmare, popping a pillow on the arm of the couch. I'm open to suggestions. So long as you're all with me, we can do whatever we want. Eventually, the lights would all be turned out, and the 5 of them would settle down to rest. Altogether, it had been an exciting day. Nightmare found himself smiling as he recalled all the fun they'd had. Killer's feet shifted slightly next to him as they were sharing the couch, but he didn't mind. It reminded him of the comfort he once had when Dream was still around. Dream. All at once, the happiness he'd gotten from the day was washed away, replaced by the image of his brother trapped on that stump, keeping the multiverse alive. It was his fault Dream was gone. It was his fault. No, it was the humans. The humans corrupted him, hurt them both. It had always been their fault. It was because of the humans that Dream wasn't at his side to enjoy any of this with him. The circling thoughts robbed Nightmare of his rest. Opening his eye, he stared into the darkness about the room. Letting his sight make sense of his surroundings was just enough to push his thoughts away. However, as he shifted his head to look out the window, a chill ran down his spine. Staring back at him, an eyeless face beyond the glass, a child, a familiar child with a half-skeletal face, whose memories seemed so distant but suddenly so close. Nightmare felt shots of pains in his bones again, flashing back to the night he was tortured. He remembered seeing that gray child staring at him from the endless white, the anti-void, watching what the humans did to him. A second more, the face moved back into the darkness, disappearing from sight. "Wait!" Nightmare shot from the couch. Without putting on his shoes, he was at the door and running out into the snow, looking about desperately. He'd spied the child walking out into the woods, disappearing behind a tree. "Frisk! Frisk, wait!" Using the shadows to his advantage, Nightmare shot himself into the woods, arising in a clearing and looking around. "Frisk! It was you, wasn't it? You were there when the humans violated me!" "Yes, I was there," said a calm voice next to him. Nightmare stumbled back, staring at the gray child who stood beside him. Being this close, he was able to observe more of their form. Completely absent of color, they appeared to be wearing some sort of striped onesie. The right side of their face, chest, and arm had been burned away, revealing exposed bone. Though their eyes were gone, something about the way they held his gaze made him feel trapped inside a jar. What are you?" "I'm not exactly sure how to explain it," they said, putting their arms behind their back. "I died, but I'm alive. I'm here, but I'm everywhere. I have no sight, but I see everything." "Are you God?" The child chuckled. "Hardly. Although I'm not quite sure. I don't think God would be so unsure of themselves." You were there. Why didn't you stop them?" said Nightmare, feeling his soul start to race, his roots curling in anger. "Why did you watch them do this to me?" Their smile faded as their arms hung loose at their sides. "What was I supposed to do, Nightmare?" "Well, look at you! You could have scared them off! You would have saved Dream and I both, but you just stood by and watched!" They tilted their head. "Is that what you want from me? To solve all your pain? To even out the multiverse to where there's no more suffering and no more free will?" "No, but you could have at least prevented this," he said, grabbing at his sleeves to signal at the blight. "I already saved you once, and it was disastrous. I can't save you any more than I could save myself from becoming this," they said, holding up their skeletal arm. "That's bullshit, Frisk! I won't believe that!" Nightmare's hands curled into fists. "What am I saying? I should have expected such incompetence from a human." "Your words sting. We used to be friends." Frisk hung their head. "I see you. You're hurting yourself more by blaming those who were not responsible for your curse." The wind whistled through the trees. Nightmare felt his bare feet growing numb in the snow. "Yeah, well, I'm still hurting. The people who were responsible are dead now, and all I have to show for it is an unclean body and my brother trapped in a multi-century slumber. It wasn't enough justice for what we suffered. Someone has to pay." Frisk sighed and shook their head. "The pain you feel is valid, Nightmare, but you can't heal your pain by inflicting more of it. Only you can free yourself from the corruption. I've tried this before and failed. That's why I didn't stop them." "That doesn't make any sense!" Nightmare screamed. "I would be here if you had stopped them!" "I mean before—" "Never mind." They shook their head. "I don't know why I keep trying to get through to you when I know I can't. Perhaps seeing you like this is more for me than it is for you." "What do you mean?" he growled under his breath. "I do feel guilty for not saving you, Nightmare, but I can also see every possible reality, every future ahead of us, and as much as I want to help, I know the best outcome can only come by not involving myself. If I get involved, I become God. I overwrite the multiverse and put all souls in service to me, and I don't want that. But I feel guilty only watching, too. Then just stop the worst things from happening. I already did, Frisk shouted back. I gave Dream the instinct to bind himself to the tree, to save everyone. I've already prevented multiple multiverse-ending events. Any more and I risk tipping it all out of balance. You! Nightmare's eye widened before he screamed, striking a root out at Frisk, who disappeared. You're the one who took my brother from me! Looking around, Nightmare began teleporting rapidly around the shadows, searching for Frisk. Every time he'd see them, they'd disappear before he could strike. No, Nightmare! I saved him! I saved you both, and everyone! Now it's your turn to meet me halfway. What's left is your own problem, and I'm warning you not to make things worse. Fuck you! I hope you burn in hell! Cried Nightmare, as his sharpened roots felled several trees, causing leaves and snow to tumble in clouds of white in the darkness. I should have never come. I'm sorry, came Frisk's voice one last time, then silence. Frisk? Frisk! Come back here, you son of a bitch! I'm gonna fucking kill you! Frisk! As the blighted skeleton wailed, he continued to bludgeon and tear at all the trees and brush around him. Though he knew Frisk was already gone, he screamed until he collapsed to his knees, weeping. It's not fair. We didn't deserve this. Please, don't leave me like this. Boss? Came Killer's anxious voice. Nightmare's head shot up. Killer stood close, holding out his hand, but recoiled in fear. Behind him, Horror, Dust, and Cross all stood speechless. Nightmare hung his head, his roots relaxing and going limp in the snow at his sides. How much did you hear? Enough, said Horror. Sounds like you got problems with your own human, said Dust. Please, don't be scared of me. I don't want you to be scared of me. I don't want to be alone, Nightmare cried, tears rolling down his cheeks, briefly cutting through the blight on his bone. Killer knelt down, and as he did, Nightmare threw his arms around him, crying into his chest, Please don't leave me. We're not going anywhere, boss. Who is this little bastard who's tormenting you? We'll take care of them, Killer said, holding him back. Nightmare shook his head. I'm not sure. They look like a human I once knew, but I don't think they're the same. Who am I kidding? They're all the same. They don't care about the harm they've caused. What did they do to your brother? Dust asked. Shaking his head, Nightmare caught his breath before looking at all of them. I'll show you. Meanwhile, in Dreamtale, the grove was having a quiet night. No moon in the sky, crickets chirped as posted guards kept a stern watch over the sleeping guardian. All of a sudden, roots emerged from their shadows. Screams rang out as the guards fell into their own shadows, only to be thrust out into the darkness somewhere deep in the woods. The torches left behind fell to the ground, flickering and dimming out. It was just enough darkness for Nightmare to bring the 5 of them through. The dark skeletons could smell the dew in the grass, but the smell of apple blossoms had long since faded. Turning, he beheld his brother once again, sleeping upon the stump of the world tree, bound by the magical vines. The others were stunned, but slowly gathered around to get a better look. He looks just like you. As if you weren't... Sorry, said Cross. Remaining on his knees, Nightmare leaned against the stump, staring at the face of his sleeping twin. This place is the most important place in the multiverse. This is where the world tree once stood. Dream and I were born of it. It is us, and we are it. It's from the tree where all AUs are anchored and all souls are born. Without it, everything dies. He took a deep breath, steadying his nerves. One day, I was here alone and a group of humans came to torture me. They did this to me, gave me the blight and the roots, and drove me mad. In my insanity, I felled the world tree. I would have killed us all. I saw Frisk, there in the endless white, the anti-void. They watched me being tortured and didn't stop it. And now, They say it was because of them that Dream is asleep. He is using his body to keep the multiverse alive until a new tree grows, which will take 500 years. The anti-void, said Cross, staring out into it. There should be a mountain here. What? Said Nightmare, looking up at him. Yeah, Mount Ebot, I'm sure of it, said Cross, looking around. I recognize this grove. Papyrus and I and the other kids used to come up here to play all the time. And the apple tree. It was exactly where your brother is sleeping. It was a sacred place for my people. We'd have parties and holidays together up here. Yeah, this does sort of look like the place we came out of in the underground together, said Killer, still sitting next to him. Nightmare felt his soul freeze over. He knew the AUs were connected, obviously. But somehow, this made him feel that there must have been a deeper connection between him and his brother with all the Sanses. What were they to each other, truly? If his home was so similar to Cross and the others, why weren't there other dreams and nightmares running around? Killer turned, looking over Dream and sighed. Poor thing. We can't just cut him out of this, wake him up? Nightmare took a deep breath, pushing that existential crisis down into his mind. I don't know if he would wake up, and no, you just start the apocalypse doing that. Damn. Sitting up, Nightmare once again stared over his brother. Dream looked peaceful, but sad. Golden and dark tears leaked from his closed sockets as the feelings of the multiverse funneled through his body. The tree sprout growing above his head was nourished on those feelings, its tiny leaves fragile but green. I want the world to be a better place when Dream wakes up, a place where humans don't exist. What happened to me? I want to make sure that never happens to him, and there can't even be a chance of it. All right, let's do it then, said Cross with an unexpected amount of gusto. The four others went quiet and looked at the night, but Cross focused only on Nightmare. You said your brother would be asleep for the next 500 years, right? And you told me you were immortal. The rest of us may be mortal, but we could help you start transforming your world. If this world is like mine, the humans will eventually try to kill all monsters. If I can stop that from happening here, then I can die easy knowing I honored my people's memory. We would help you make a world that is safe for you, your brother, and the rest of monster kind. Oh yeah, that sounds like a plan I can get behind, said Killer, getting up on his feet. Something like that happened in my world, too. We could stop all those bastards from screwing up Nightmare's world before it even starts. Eye wide, Nightmare looked between Killer and Cross. They were grinning at each other and this new motivation that was beginning to form. Sure, I wouldn't mind helping, said Horror, grunting, putting his hands in his pockets and giving a wide grin. As long as I keep fed and have my sanity back, I owe that to Nightmare. Nor do I have any love for humans. They put us underground to suffer. The suffering my people is also on them. Meanwhile, Dust had folded his arms, quietly listening to everything as his red eyes watched Dream's chest slowly rise and fall with breath. With a deep sigh, he looked at the others, then finally at Nightmare. Keep it fun and you won't get any trouble from me. Guys, you... Lost for words, Nightmare stood up and shook his head. You'd all really do this for me. Help me make my world safe. Cross nodded. Of course. You pulled all of us out of a bad situation. We owe you that. Plus, what else are friends for? He thought he might cry, not only because of how they were offering to help, but after 2 years of listless drifting, Nightmare finally had something to work towards. Thank you. Thank you all so much. In a moment of exuberance, he threw his arms around Cross. The knight returned the hug. Ah, boss, don't worry. We got your back, no matter what, said Killer, hugging Cross and Nightmare. A second more, Horror came to hug them with his big arms, before opening his red eye at the last skeleton. Dust? Dust shook his head. Nah, I'm not a hugger. Come on, Dusty, you look like a fool, said Killer. Just one hug. Rolling his eyes, Dust took a step forward, but he didn't give a hug. Instead, his eyes focused on Nightmare, and he held out his hand for a shake. But before Nightmare could take it, Horror snatched the hooded skeleton into an embrace. Gotcha! No! Fine, he groaned. Nightmare chuckled a bit and looked over them once again, a smile on his face. I can't offer you enough gratitude. Thank you.